everybody, my name is Gabriel Zimmerman, and I'm here today with
Ariana Stegall.
And today is May 19th of 2021, and obviously we're broadcasting you this podcast in America. So we would like to talk about American farmers and the tariff war against China. And I would like to start this podcast off by talking about the Phase 1 U.S.-China deal that was recently promised to hopefully have us some relief. Details remain, however, unclear, but the United States government's interpretation of this deal is that China will purchase $40 billion of agricultural goods in 2020.
Some analysts have questioned how realistic those estimates are, given that the highest level of farm products in the U.S. ever exported to China was $26 billion in 2012, pretty far away, although one Chinese agricultural consultancy company says that this can be achieved.
Which I can understand why there's some skepticism going around, considering, as you mentioned, that's an 8-year difference, and as we are here in 2021 now, that would be a 9-year difference, and they're almost going to purchase twice as much in agricultural goods. So I can see why they're a little sketchy of this.
It's definitely well-deserved skepticism.
And then many countries imposed retaliatory tariffs on United States agricultural exports in the response to Trump administration's tariffs on their exports back when he was in office. Exports have been an important component of farm income, especially since 2005.
And in 2018, tariffs were imposed by China on almost all U.S. agricultural products. Several of these tariffs have since been lifted as a result of ongoing negotiations. Canada and Mexico also lifted retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. to clear the way for a ratification of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement in May of 2019, as the U.S. also lifted its tariffs on steel and aluminum for Mexico and Canada.
Which is actually pretty interesting because I did just hear about how back when Trump was in office, how he did put tariffs on both steel and aluminum against China. But to dip on the more statistical side of things, the agricultural sector had record levels of debt in 2019 and the highest number of bankruptcies since 2011. In October, the United States Department of Agriculture projected that farm debt in 2019 would be a record high of $416 billion, with $257 billion in real estate debt and $159 billion in non-real estate debt.
And, adjusting for inflation, the value of debt increased 1.5% between 2018 and 2019. The USDA predicts solvency measures that reflect the ability to satisfy debt obligations and are expected to decrease in 2019, and be at the weakest level since 2009. Court records show that the 580 Chapter 12 farm bankruptcies in the year ending in September of 2019 were up 24% from the prior year, and we're at the highest annual level since 2011.
That's a pretty harsh dip in terms of our debt numbers.
It's definitely not looking so good out there.
But not only obviously is this impact of the war or tariff war happening against us, but China is also deeply impacted with this. But the impact of retaliatory tariffs was particularly significant for agricultural trade with China. U.S. exports of agricultural products to China decreased by 63% between 2017 and 2018, from $15.8 billion to $5.9 billion.
U.S. tariffs on China have resulted in a decline in exports of tariffed products by 25% in the first half of 2019. While substantial, this figure also shows the competitiveness of Chinese firms, which despite the substantial tariffs were still able to maintain 75% of their exports in the U.S.
And if you ask me, it seems like China's getting the better end of this tariff war.
Yeah, when's somebody gonna cut us some slack?
Obviously, this tariff war is impacting both us and China, but this tariff war is also impacting other countries around the world. According to the report, U.S. tariffs on China resulted in Taiwan, a province of China, gaining $4.2 billion in additional exports to the U.S. in the first half of 2019 by selling more office machinery and communication equipment.
And the effects of this were concentrated in Washington, Louisiana, Texas, California, and Oregon, which together accounted for nearly 80% of 2018's exports, according to our calculations based on data from the U.S. International Trade Administration.
All but Oregon saw double-digit % declines in the value of agricultural exports to China, with a decrease of 82.5% in Louisiana and at 57.2% in Washington, which was the biggest agricultural exporter to China and had declined from $4.4 billion in 2017 to $1.9 billion in 2018. Despite the retaliatory tariffs, overall U.S. agricultural exports rose slightly in 2018 to $140 billion from $138 billion in 2017.
Man, it seems like no matter where you are in the world, you just can't escape these tariff wars.
Unfortunately, it's seeming that way, but hopefully we can form a plan. Hopefully everybody can come to agreement. But other than that, that's all that we have for you guys today. Thank you for listening, and again, I'm Gabriel Zimmerman.
I'm Ariana Stegall.
And until next time.
Very good.